Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. Today I am going to do a tag video. Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading tagged me to do the Used Bookstore Tag, a tag of her own invention, and it's a very fun tag, so I thought I would do it. I don't go to used bookstores very much anymore, but I do think about them, and particularly about the old used bookstores that we used to have here in the Chicago area. So let's dive right in. Number one, what is your favorite or most often visited used bookstore, and what sets it apart or makes it special? Well, there are two separate answers for that. My favorite is a bookstore up in Evanston called Amaranth Books. It's a small shop, but very nicely curated. It's near my dentist's office, and so every time I am up there, I try to have scheduled my appointments during bookshop hours so that I can stop in and take a look. As I say, it's small but very nicely curated. One thing that I have come to depend upon the shop for is nice New York Review of Books copies, and you can usually find something for $4 or $5, and generally speaking I will just pick it up. So he'll put a little price up in the top right there. Always, it's one of those bookstores where everything is in nice shape. As you walk in the door, there's there's three shelves. One's $1, another's $2, and another's $3. So on my way out, I will check that and see what might be there. I got Master and Commander there for $1. But usually it's his collection of this sort of thing. He'll have nice classic Penguins, and he will have Library of America editions, that kind of thing. It's a shop I used to frequent when I worked up in Evanston as a young man, and then for decades did not go there anymore. And then when I got this dentist, I started stopping in again, although after what my dentist recently did to me, I am not sure that I will be going back up into Evanston. So that's my favorite one. My most frequented bookstore is probably Open Books in Chicago. Now it's a charity bookshop. I think their purpose is to encourage reading, something like that. But they have several locations on the north side, but I go to their warehouse, which is in the Pilsen area, and everything there is $4, and usually you can't find much. In the old days, a couple of years ago, you could find all kinds of good stuff, but they've started sorting their stuff. Everything comes into the warehouse and then they sort it, and it goes out really quick. So all of the good stuff is gone. But I found this just recently, and having read Henry Adams's history, it fits right into my plans, and I hope to be getting to it soon. So it says $4, but you can pay what you want. 2, does your used bookstore take credit? I do not know. 3, how often do you go to your used bookstore? Well, as I said, I don't really go to used bookstores all that frequently. Can you share how much credit you have there? And that's the other thing. At this point, I don't sell books back. I believe years ago I sold some books back to half-price books, but now any book that I want to get rid of either goes into the neighborhood box. Years ago, I was finding lots of good stuff there. They don't seem to have as much good stuff anymore either. And this is going to be a common theme in this video. Or most frequently, every time we go to Open Books, and in fact, the usual occasion for going to Open Books is to unhaul a big box of books, or multiple box, really, between me and my partner. Number 4, what, if any, restrictions does your used bookstore have on how you can use your credit? So again, that does not apply. I will put all these prompts into the description box. 5, how is your used bookstore organized? What do you like and dislike about how it's organized? Well, the Amaranth Books, it's a small shop, as I said, and so one entire wall is fiction, and then it kind of curls around and then goes through the freestanding shelf on the other side of the aisle, about halfway down, with continued fiction. And then you have poetry and I think some literary things. The rest of the shop I'm not so sure about. There's little history sections, American history. There's on the other far wall, there's economics. That was where I bought my copy of The Wealth of Nation by Adam Smith years ago that I may well never get to. And Open Books, the warehouse, they've rearranged things, and so it's more confusing now than it used to be. But they also have a huge wall and wall of fiction. I mean, this is a warehouse, mind you. And then you go past the next corner and you have like literary stuff. So for about 3 years running, I have seen that biography of the Bronte family. Beautiful condition, and I've always said no to it because I don't think I can read it. I bet it will not be there next time I go, but I thought long and hard about it. It would have been a nice thing to catch for a pay what you desire. I should say I generally pay at least $2, usually something above. I just take whatever the total is and round it off. And the other stuff like poetry, they've really diminished their holdings, and that stuff is just, it's a lot of messy, junky stuff all thrown together. So you don't generally find anything, and poetry will also include all kinds of really, really ratty old Penguin copies of, you know, some obscure Roman poet or whatever. I guess if they've come down to us, they're not so obscure. I would ask Steve Donahue if he had read them. You know what I mean. So, what is the best find or deal you got at a used bookstore? Well, I used to go to Half Price Books a lot. There's one in the city, west on Tui. I think it's in the city. And for a decade at least, we would be up that way, shopping for other items, and I would inevitably stop into Half Price Books, and I was making it a habit to just go to the clearance shelves and pick up anything that piqued my curiosity. And so any Penguin edition I would pull, any this or that of certain other publishers, Norton Critical Edition, that kind of thing. And then one day I was in there, and I happened to see this lovely Folio Society edition of Moses Finley's book, The World of Odysseus, and it floored me. I did not know that they made a folio edition of his book. This is the book that first drew the world's attention to M.I. Finley. His name is not on the spine, I noticed, but it's a really nice illustrated edition. I, of course, have no need of such a beautiful book, but it was there, and it was only for like $10 or something. I remember that there were 2 copies of it. One, the book had some kind of bash on it, and the other one, the box had some kind of a bash on it. So don't tell anybody, but I switched one box, or switched one book. So I got the book without the bash and the box without the bash. Booktube is a place for revealing one's sins, although if booktubers are watching or other book lovers, I am sure they will approve of such a thing. It was, for this type of book, a remarkably low price, and other Folio Society editions that they have in their special section, it's usually a lot more than that. So now we're coming to the fun part. Is there something you saw at your used bookstore and now you regret not purchasing it? Well, no, but, well, there was one thing one time that was just such a thing. I saw, now Emily Dickinson has been very important to me, and this has been my go-to edition of her complete poems, which has been with me since college days. And years ago, I was at a bookstore on Clark Street. It was really my favorite bookstore in the city, and I can't remember the name of it anymore. Long gone. Nobody remembers it because there was another bookstore a few blocks down, which was very famous, and everybody thinks you're talking about that other bookstore. It also is no longer there. But I saw a nice hardback edition of this book, and it was a reasonable price. I can't remember. I think $10, and it was too much for me to pay at the time. I mean, this is still in my earlier days. Probably now I could handle that $10. I let it slip. And then for years and years, I regretted that I had not gotten it. Now, that said, the book has come into my life in that edition. Well, this is not it, but I did see it again somewhere, I think at Half Price Books for a real cheap price, probably $5, and I picked it up. And this one is not mine. This actually belongs to my partner. So we have 2 copies in hardback of this book and my original paperback. And honestly, to tell the truth, this is my go-to still. This is the edition I prefer to use. Out of respect for Dickinson, I believe having a nice hardbound complete is unreprehensible. But for practical usage, it is not necessary. So you can't always get what you want. And sometimes what you want is not synonymous with what you need. But there have been others. One time I was at that Half Price book. Pardon me. I was at Half Price Books, and there was a copy, some strange publisher that I'd never heard of Gorky's novel, The Mother. Haven't really heard much about The Mother. I don't really like Gorky that much as a novelist, and I should say that is just merely a prejudice, because years ago when I read the letters of Anton Chekhov, he seemed to look at Gorky with a little bit of contempt. So I just carried his little bit of contempt over to me. Now, his autobiographical series, it's a trilogy, has the first volume, My Childhood or something. I read it and loved it, and it has stuck with me. So if I read any more, I have to revise that denigration, which I just voiced this past instant. But it was a weird edition of a book by him called The Mother, and it had ink in, it had black ink and it had red ink, and it was kind of, it reminds you of a Bible, but I don't think that there were like little phrases particular, and I can't remember why it had red ink. It was just such an odd thing, and I thought I really should buy this. But I looked at, the book itself didn't interest me. I mean, way back in those days, I was not a novel reader at all. So I let it go, but I've always wondered about the edition. And then another one, which I regret not having bought, was years ago I was in Portland, Oregon, and there's a famous bookstore up there, Powell's Books, and I saw a nice hardbound edition of Finley's book, The Use and Abuse of History. This is not it. I didn't buy it. It was for something about it. It was just beautiful, and I regret it. It was again a $10 thing, and it was too much for me to buy. I already had it in paperback. So I passed it by and I regretted it. I think I emailed the bookstore. Of course, they couldn't find it. They had no idea. So eventually I ordered something online. I did eventually decide to get Finley in hardback because he's so important in my library, and I do like holding on to a good hardback Finley when I am reading him. So this book is serviceable. The Use and Abuse of History is a marvelous collection of essays, by the way. So there is that. Is there a book you are always on the hunt for at your used bookstore? No. And as I say, I don't normally go to used bookstores that frequently. Actually, about a year before COVID, I stopped going to bookstores altogether. The reason is because now I am, well, the bookstores in Chicago really tend to lack any kind of a good selection anymore. So I don't, of the type things that I might be looking for. So I don't go. The charity bookshop, Open Books, is a place where you would be more likely to find something. And if I were to go to their branches, I would definitely find more stuff, but the prices are higher in their branch shops. So the selection is not so good. And most of my book buying comes from, I've heard something on Booktube, and I just look it up and buy it from an online used vendor if I can find a price. And that can be elastic depending on what the book in question is. But I try to go for about $5, including shipping, if I can get it. And you probably know the vendors, which I get most of my books from. If you could run your used bookstore for a day, what changes would you make? And that's another one that would be hard for me to answer. I don't think that I could. As I say, the only real used bookstore now is half-price books that I might go to. Amaranth is a sporadic thing, and he has done everything just as I would like for a small shop. And I would not ask him to expand into the storefront next door to make it bigger. I'm just thankful every day that he, the proprietor, is still there sitting at the desk, opening the shop every day. So I can't suggest any changes to any bookstores. If you could go used book shopping with any booktuber in any city, who would you go with and where? And this, I have a whole slew. Some of this is going to replicate Kelly's own answer. So number one is Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics. I would like to go with Alan to see the bookstores in Portland. Now, when I was there years ago, Powell's was not the only thing. And the other bookstores that I remember going to, which I don't really remember, but at some point I heard that they had closed. So I would imagine there is still something there. I would also consider, actually very much like to go with Gina at Gina Stanier Books, or all together, Sandy at Ms. Reads a Lot for bookstores in Seattle. I've never really gotten to explore too much the bookstores in Seattle. The last time I went there, though, I went to one bookshop on the university campus and came away with a whole pile of just incredible stuff. The thing is, every time I've been on the West Coast, just in going into almost any bookshop, you find all kinds of great books. It may be that I've just exhausted the supply in Chicago, and so there's nothing that appeals to me here. But every time I've been on the West Coast, man, those bookstores are just wonderful. And so along with that, I believe that Michael K. Vaughan might be in the California area somewhere, so I would mention him as a potential bookstore shopping companion, although I understand he has the nasty habit of dragging around a corpse with him wherever he goes. Now there is also, if he is still in the area, Tyler at Colorless Wonderland. And I've never, he has talked in particular about this one bookstore that he really, I think it's called the Iliad or something, some goofy name like that. And he's mentioned other bookshops, and I would just love to go there. And unfortunately, when I've been in LA, I just have not been able to squeeze a bookstore jaunt into the itinerary. So that's how that goes. I might also just say Brian at Bookish. I know he's in Texas somewhere, and I know that Half Price Books is headquartered in Texas. I have, in fact, been to their headquarters some time ago as well. So I think Brian would be fun to go half price booking with. In fact, maybe I could, as opposed to meeting at the store, I could impose upon Brian to let me sit with him in the cab or the front seat of his vehicle and make a video in tandem while on the way to that half price bookstore. So that is it. And I will put some people to tag. The 11th prompt is to tag some booktubers. I will put some names in there, and if I've mentioned you and you have not been tagged, consider yourself tagged. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel.